Okay. Well, welcome to you all. This is one of our regular Friday afternoon Black History conversations. And gosh, we've got so many things to talk about today because last Sunday, the 22nd of June, 2025, was the 8th Windrush Day. So there are lots of things, and my colleague, Garrick Prayogg is going to really tell you lots more about that. And we've also got with us Dr. Vivian Crawford from Kingston, Jamaica, who's really our resident consultant now, I think. Vivian, you've joined us so often, and thanks as ever to my colleague Simon Fringo. Simon, Garrick, and I are directors of Learning Links International, and we're the people who hold this whole thing together just about 1 week at a time, Black History Conversations. So I'm just going to put on the first PowerPoint, which will, first illustration, which will really ground us as to where we are. All that time ago, even before I was born, in 1948, the Empire Windrush arrived in Tilbury Docks. And it was that iconic moment when so many folks from Jamaica, from other islands, white folks returning back home, others who were taking the opportunity to use this journey across the Atlantic to get to the UK. So many folks, and we've had so many discussions over the times that we've been running Black History conversations to be able to share stories about Empire Windrush, and that's been magnificent. Anyway, today we're going to take the opportunity to talk with you, Garrick, and first of all, we're going to be finding out more about the day you spent last Tuesday in in London at the House of Commons. And just to let people know that what's fascinating is that all the things that go on in Parliament are now written up carefully and clearly and explained through the debate. So I'm just going to see if this link works. No, it doesn't. Right. So I'm going to try and find another way of us getting in. No, it won't. Okay, right. Over to you then, Garrick. We're going to have to do that. First of all, going down to London and just what the focus was on the 16th in Parliament. So
Yes, yes. So it is Windrush season, as it were, and many of the Windrush activities start early June and continue right through June, July, and August. And we do have a dedicated calendar. The Windrush 100 network gives you, event taking place up and down the country in different cities. So that's always a good place to start to see what's happening around the country. Um, and of course, the calendar on the Windrush 100 doesn't reflect everything that's taking place, only those activities that's been posted on this site. Okay? But there are still many other activities taking place that's not posted on the site. And sometimes the Eventbrite is a good way of also finding out what's happening in Windrush and any other event. So this is a really good site. This site was created after Windrush 75 to continue into the Windrush 100. And we do realize that the first generation of Windrush are up in years. And my grandmother used to say they're big people, mean big in age. In their 90s, many have passed. And so that generation really are slowly diminishing. However, the legacy of that generation is still here. And when we heard of Sir Jeff Palmer, we had to get this on quickly on the site. The same afternoon, the evening, when we had the information, we posted this very quickly as a contribution to Sir Jeff Palmer. And um, Professor uh, Patrick Vernon also was able to talk about his own father, who is still alive in his 90s in Birmingham, in Wolverhampton, and also the legacy of that family, the Vernon family. It's quite an interesting read. So I was contacted prior to the 16th of June by an MP, which I work with frequently in Windrush. Her name is Ellen Hayes, from Norwood and Brixton. And she contacted me because she said, we're having this discussion in Parliament on the 16th, and I want you to tell me what are some of the issues still that need to be addressed. So I was able to direct her to three issues, 3 points that I think is very important. Firstly, that the new Labour government promised they would, deal with Windrush in a different way that the previous administration dealt with Windrush, and they would have what they call fundamental change. So I said to Helen, well, I would like to know what the fundamental change is and when will we see evidence of the fundamental change? Because a lot of our community is just fed up of waiting, hearing stories of promises, and it's taking longer, and some are dying without getting any compensation or even getting their status rectified. And status is very important because that is part of the issue with Windrush. Many of the Windrush generation who arrive in the UK as children without any passport, who travel with other family member, they didn't have any documentation. And so when the scandal broke in 2018, and they were asked to produce evidence that you have the right to be here, and that causes many anxiety and issues because they were brought up, they went to school here, they went to college, university here, they live here, they have their family here, and now they're asking for documentation to show you have the right to be here. And of course, at that time in 2018, many were saying, well, the Home Office had the documents, and we don't know exactly what happened, whether they deliberately destroyed the document or the document was lost, but there's various stories about how the documents are missing. And some have said the transformation from paper to digital was one reason why documentation was lost. So all the paper copies that were kept in one place in the Home Office, probably in Croydon, when they make the digital storage, a lot of the paper was destroyed or lost. That's one theory. Other theory is that they deliberately lost the document, and that's more believable. However, the issues still remain. How do you confirm your status? How do you rectify your status? And so the Windrush compensation scheme was designed to address those two issues. Firstly, to get documentation. And then secondly, if you've been impacted because you did not have the documentation when you were asked to produce it. For example, your employer asked you for your passport, you did not have it, so you were dismissed. So if you are impacted as a result of those issues, then you can apply for compensation. So it's twofold. Status, one, first thing, compensation, second. And many people didn't quite understand the difference between status and compensation. Not everybody would be entitled to compensation because not everybody has been impacted. Many people just want to get their documentation to get their status so that they can apply for their British passport. And that's all they want, nothing else. And that's fine. Many of the older generation, the first generation, is of the view that they had a British passport when they arrived in the UK. They were British. Why should I be doing any different? Why should I be applying for any new status or any changes? So that's been an issue for the older generation. Yeah, we were British and we're still British. In many respects, that argument is quite an interesting one. But because we're dealing with immigration laws from 1948 up to 1989, there has been changes in legislation from 48. And so, for example, Jamaica gained independence in 1962. And any country who gained independence under the Commonwealth Act, you would revert back to your country of birth. Many people didn't understand what that actually means. Oh, so are you saying, so I was British up to 1962, and after 1962, I revert back to my country? Yes, that is correct. And that would apply to any other Commonwealth citizen whose country gained independence. And a lot of that information is very hard to understand for the average person, particularly the older people, first and second generation. So what we try to do is to explain to people that Windrush is really about immigration changes, policies, but also Britain had what they call hostile environment policies. And the hostile environment policies was to control immigration numbers. How do we know that is true? Well, in September 2024, the new government released a document called Historical Roots. Historical Roots clearly in that report stated that the government of the day, that will include Labour and Conservative government of the day, policies was to keep black and brown people out of the UK. It is written there in black and white. Now, we always believed that was the policies because many of us who've been around from the 60s and 70s, I lived in Brixton in the 70s, and we did see transit vans with slogan on the side of it to say, niggers go home. We saw those vans. And many people, because of the hostile environment then, decided not to stay in Britain any longer because we had the National Front and other bodies that was physically attacking people in the street. And prior to that, we had what is known as the Teddy Boys and all those people who were deliberately targeting Black and Asian people. So the hostile environment existed. And it's interesting because Mrs. May, the Prime Minister, actually in her book, talk about the hostile environment. And in fact, she was the Home Secretary at the time of the Home Office scandal. And many believe she was the one responsible for the hostile environment created by the Conservative government. So that's a prelude to Windrush. So the 16th of June, this debate, I think there was probably 16 MPs from what Helen has reported back that met just before Windrush Day to talk about issues around Windrush. And as I said, I submitted 3 questions for Helen to raise in that discussion. And what Helen says, there will be a formal response, because the way MP operate, they don't give you a decision. It's always, we'll take that away and we will come back to you. So they have to come back having to consult with the Home Secretary and other etc. And they'll come back and give you a response. So I'm waiting for that written response. That was the 16th of June. Just last week, sorry, this week, the 24th of June, following the Windrush Day, I was invited to go down to a panel discussion about Windrush, but this was led by Age UK, which is a national charity for older people. And the theme that they wanted to discuss was, how can older people be supported? And older people, they were specifically talking about the Windrush generation, that first and second generation. Now, Age UK policy, anyone over the age of 55 can access support. So that could be benefit support, it could be housing advice, it could be social care, any of those things. They're very much around older people, supporting older people. And also issues around IT. Older people have difficulty with IT, and of course the government is forcing everyone down to use IT. So instead of talking to somebody, they said, go in line, and many older people just can't cope with the online system. So Age UK have been very active in defending older people and say the government need to ensure there is alternative communication. Not everyone can deal with online platform. And it's interesting because older people, regardless of whether they're black, white, or yellow, there are many issues that older people will face. Learning disability issues, sight problem, illiteracy problem, many issues that would be a barrier for them to access and use IT. So the work that Age UK is doing is really important for older people. So on Tuesday, we had a panel member, myself, Justice for Windrush Generation, Windrush National Organization, Bishop Desmond Jadu from Birmingham, Glenda Caesar, victim, and from Windrush Live, 3 members of the Home Office team, the Minister for Immigration and Migration, SEMA, and three members from three different parties. It was an APG session, which means that it's a cross-party. So we had representation from the Green Party, we had representation from Labour, we had representation from the Lib Dem. There was nobody from the Conservative in the room at the time. Okay? So that was a representation. And so the minister was given the opportunity to say something about Windrush, and she had to leave in 20 minutes. So she gave an update from the government perspective, and then she invited a few questions, and then she had to go. And then we were asked to individually say our bit, what is our concern, and in particular, what are some of the pressing issues that the government yet to address. So I spoke on the issue around overseas support, that although there is support in the UK, there is no support overseas for people knowing where to go to get advice and information about Windrush. I also gave the example that in Jamaica, we now have a telephone number, but it has taken 2 years to get that telephone number up and working, properly. And of course, what about all the other islands that haven't got a number? Why should they not have a number as well? I also stress to the minister that the Foreign Office should be able to provide information to people about Windrush and how to contact the Home Office. And I suggested to the minister, why can't the Home Office offer a WhatsApp number that can be shared across the Commonwealth countries? So we have 56 Commonwealth countries and 9 overseas protective territories. I also mentioned that people from the African community do not understand Windrush, and people from the Southeast Asian community do not understand Windrush. And it just so happened that one member of the Home Office team from Windrush, a caseworker, she was from Bangladesh, and she also confirmed to the audience that is so. She said, I didn't know anything about Windrush until I got a job in the Home Office as a caseworker. So clearly, there is work to be done by the Home Office. And I stress that the people doing this work is doing it voluntarily, without pay. It is the Home Office responsibility to get information out to people, not just in the UK, but overseas. And then I was able to bring in a live case. And the live case is a case that is currently in The Guardian. This is the case of Mr. Winston Knight. Mr. Winston Knight is a case I'm dealing with at the moment. And he was removed from the UK in 2013. And he lived on the street in Jamaica throughout that period, sleeping on the street. There is sleeping on the street, and also begging for food. He had to go to the market, to beg for food. But he told me this week when I met him in London that when the market people arrive with their goods to sell, he volunteered to carry this stuff, taking it off the bus and taking it to the market, and they would give him a few bits of food for doing that. And at the end of the day, what food could not be sold left over, they would give it to him, and he would then sell that and get what he said, a little change, right? That's how we survived from 2013 to 2025. He also told me that he was in Bellevue for 2 years. He had a breakdown and he saw some very disturbing things in Bellevue. People, on the floor, people bleeding out, people stabbing themselves, really traumatic things that he personally witnessed. And as a result of all of this man is now very traumatized. He have great difficulty sleeping. We're now able to get him. We register. Last week we were able to get a GP for him to be registered. He will have his first appointment next Tuesday with a GP that can actually check him over and see what particular medical need he may have. He's got 3 swollen glands on his neck. As a result, he told me that he had a very bad toothache and he tried to pull this toothache, and as a result, he had abscess in his mouth, and that has caused these swollen glands, etc. In Jamaica, we'll say he have a big coco. This is like a really big coco, right, sticking out of the side of his face. Now, it just so happened that, this gentleman is back here in the UK. The Home Office has taken responsibility for his the deportation, and it wasn't the current government that deported him. It was done in 2013 when David Cameron and Nick Clegg was the ruling coalition then, following the 2010 election. He have very good legal team, and the legal team and I we're communicating every couple of days. At the moment, the gentleman is staying in Bermondsey in Southwark, SE1. We're now in the process of making application to Southwark Council for housing. We have registered him with NatWest Bank. He hasn't got his card details yet, but that's in the way. There are still a number of outstanding issues to register him online for universal credit, because again, you don't walk into a job center and do this anymore. Everything is online. He doesn't know how to use computers, so we're having to give him a support worker who'd go and meet him face to face, take her laptop, and do the information with him present. But he is of good spirit. He has attempted to take his life several times when he was in Jamaica. He showed me all the different marks on his arm, etc. But he's so grateful that we have people in the UK to support Windrush people. And all the time he was in Jamaica, there was no support that he could turn to. There was no organization. And he told me about the church. He said, the church, if you are a member of a church, yes, but if you're not a member of a church, you can't go in and get a meal or get anything. So, in the UK, we've got many organizations that can support people that is homeless, living on the street. That's not the case in Jamaica. completely different. So slowly, this man has started to, you know, put his life back on a path. He knows things will take time to come through, but he he believed that things will get better for him. The fact that he's here is, is something that he said. Yeah, he never thought he would ever get back to England. He doesn't know if he's got family members because um, he had one brother, older brother, that died, and he don't know if the older brother have got any children. So I started to talk to him about Facebook, and we're going to help him to set up a Facebook account so that he can find relatives and relatives can find him. So that's the story of Mr. Winston Knight.
Garrick, thank you so much for sharing that story, and it's remarkable that you're doing this work. It really is quite incredible. So the session on the 16th was really very significant.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share my screen again to go back into the PowerPoint that I was showing, just to say that one of the presentations that Belle Rivero
Yes.
Addy
From
made,
Brixton. Yes. Clapham Brixton.
and this is taken directly from her quote. She
Yes.
says, "Windrush Day is great, but justice would be better.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
Windrush Monument is great, but justice would be even better."
Yeah.
And so then she explains a little bit more. So the Windrush generation, she says, deserve nothing short of our respect and gratitude for the role they've played in British society. And I hope the government will begin to lay the groundwork to demonstrate that, and not just the pomp and platitudes,
Yes.
but the justice that they've been denied far too long. So the rest of her presentation and the rest of the presentations on that day were made are recorded in Hansard, which is
Yeah.
remarkable. And then you told us that you'd also referred back to the historical roots of the Windrush
Yes.
scandal, this independent research report. And again, this is available on the internet, and it's really worth reading because it doesn't pull any punches, it
No.
tells the
No.
truth. So you also um, uh, went down to London again,
Yes.
and I'm deliberately keeping what I'm going to call the best for last. But
Mhm.
you went down to talk with the Age Concern group, and there's a lot on their website about Windrush. So tell
Yes.
us about the session that you had with the
Yes.
Age UK focus.
Yes. So Age UK is very much around supporting older people, anyone over the age of 55. And in particular, this was very much the APG was about Windrush older people. And that would be first and second generation. And as I mentioned, um, older people, regardless of ethnicity, will have similar issues. They'll have sight problem. They will have literacy issues. They will have disability issues. Those issues are common. Yet, what is not common is that although Age UK is doing all this work in London, it's not the same across the country. And if you're living in Wales or you're living in the north of England, the services that Age UK offer is different from the services in London, and the population makeup is different. And so, my Age UK here on the Wirral, we don't have any diversity at all. We don't see any black faces in the organization. And because of that, black and brown people will not use the service. They don't believe that people will understand their issues. And that's a real concern. And that is similar to the CAB service. Again, in different parts of the country, the offer will be different because, again, London is very much multicultural. Birmingham and other cities, you see that diversity. But as you go to different parts of the country, you do not see that diversity. And so, Black people, particularly Windrush generation, are isolated in those spaces. And the conversation around what Age UK can do to support older people, they're now working with Justice for Windrush Generation, with Action for Race Equality, with the National Organization of Windrush. And the reason for that is to bring these Black organizations into the mainstream with Age UK so that there is a partnership working. In other words, Age UK is not doing it on their own. And we're hoping that this partnership will will create a better access for people. People will then know that these organizations are now part of the offer, and we're hoping now that more people would come forward and access the Age UK services, regardless of the location that they are. And what I said to Age UK, you need to do a little bit more promotion about what you can offer, what support you can offer. When you look on their website, there's lots of YouTube videos of conversation they've had with different audiences. And that does show the diversity. But as I said, in my locality, we don't see that diversity at all. So it's something we need to do. And we can only do this if we're working together, not separate.
Right, well, thank you very much indeed for that. That's just amazing. Sorry, I'm just looking to get my picture back on again. The activities really have been splendid across the country, though. The activities to celebrate and say thank you for the incredible contribution that those who are now referred to as the Windrush generation made over the years of my lifetime, 75 years, let's face it, to the Britain and to our communities across Britain. And one of the significant things that I was telling you that we'll keep the best for last.
Yeah.
Just a minute, let me find the right. Isn't it lovely? Here we are, yeah. Oh no, that's in my photos, but that will do fine.
Yeah.
Was that we had this wonderful celebration, and you, as the chair of the North Wales Jamaica Society, were able to take a lead in this National Wales Windrush Day of Thanksgiving, which was
Yes.
held on Windrush Day itself, Sunday the 22nd of June, and it's 8 years since the government allocated a day in the year, which we recognise now as
Mm-hmm.
Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was at St. Daniel's Cathedral with a choral evensong Jamaican style. And it really, truly was a very good event. And so I'm really appreciative for the contribution you made to that. It was.
And just to say, Liz, that event was live streamed so that our colleagues in Jamaica was able to see the event on YouTube. And of course, you can revisit the event on the learninglinks international.com. And you can search for it also in YouTube, you'll find it. And of course, in that presentation, which is part of the 1500 years celebration for this cathedral. So we're still in the 1500 year celebration at the moment. This was just one of many events that will that is taking place. at Bangor Cathedral. And I must say, the concluding remarks of Tracy, the canon, towards the end of the session was really inspiring. How she, she talked about what the Windrush generation have done, but also she talked about, the barriers that they had and how they cope, during those years. Really, really heartfelt words. And this is something that we appreciate because, again, we've always said this: the Windrush generation is part of British shared history. It's not a separate thing, it's part of British shared history. And we need to recognize the contribution that those men and women have made to British society and continue to make to British society.
And so here, I don't know if you can see it and hear it, Garrick. We've got the recording of the.
I can hear something, yeah.
Can you see it?
I can't see it, no. I can only see the flyer.
All right, maybe it stopped the recording won't show. I'll just try once more to come back into it. You can hear it singing away on my computer though, can't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, Liz, I'm disabled by you.
Right, yes,
On the video.
okay. So I can't see why this is happening, but
good afternoon and a warm welcome to St. Daniel's Cathedral for this national service to mark Windrush Day. It's wonderful to welcome you to this holy place. Beloved in Christ, we come to this holy place.
Can you see it now, Garrick?
For 1,500 years, to remember the arrival of the Empire Windrush and those she carried.
Can you see this, Garrick?
And to pray for
Yes,
all.
I can see that. Yeah, all good. And I can hear it as well.
Of June 1948 of the Empire Windrush at the port of Tilbury brought more than 500 men and women from the Caribbean to live in Britain and to contribute to the recovery of the country from the rigors and devastation of the Second World War. Following the British Nationality Act of 1948, all citizens of British colonies had been accorded citizenship of the United Kingdom and colonies. The first arrival marks the beginning of significant migration from the Caribbean. 77 years later, we come to give thanks for the lives, commitment, and courage of those original settlers, to celebrate the rich diversity of multicultural Britain in our own day, and to pray that all people in this land, as elsewhere, may live together in harmony and mutual respect. Fe gyhoeddaf dy enw un cydnabod, a tholi yng nghanol yn gynulleidfa.
There's no sound.
Yeah, no sound. We can't hear.
And Liz, I'm still muted.
No, we can hear you, Vivian.
No, I'm saying that the video is muted.
Oh, right.
Disabled by the host.
Right, well, many apologies, folks. I'm just going to turn this off now from my recording. Okay, so apologies that you weren't able to hear that. I do apologise. So I think, Garrick, you've done a magnificent job. Vivian, you've been so patient. Just put your picture on again, please, Vivian. We just took that down while Garrick was talking. And we're wondering how we're doing things and moving forward. Anyway, all good stuff. So thank you very much indeed, Garrick, for sharing that. And thank you, Vivian, for being part of this whole session. We just got a couple of other things that we'd put on the PowerPoint just to remind folks of other things that are happening. And Vivian very kindly shared with us a little earlier, oops, daisy, that David Olasuga's book has now become available for him to check out, and he's thrilled to bits about that. So this is the Black History every day of the year, which
Yes.
David Olasuga's put to. So we're thinking ahead to next season 15 of Black History Conversations, and we're hoping very much that David Olasuga can be invited to come along and launched our 16th season of conversations to tell us a little bit about what he's been doing. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, Vivian.
Yes.
And also Katie Donington, who will be returning from her maternity leave at the end of July, and she's going to hopefully be joining us next season as well. So we'll be going back to having presentations by speakers and doing a whole range of things. But our in-house presentation today by Garrick Prayogg was magnificent. Thank you, Garrick, for contributing and sharing all the things that you've been involved in. And there's lots more Windrush things going on. And of course, we need to get a resolution to the difficult situation. And please, on behalf of Black History Conversations, pass on our very best respects to the colleague who's now back in the UK, thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
A very,
His mother was born in Trelawney, but he was born in Kingston. So I have a copy of his birth certificate.
right. Gosh, you just have to do
Yeah.
everything.
Vivian, this is something for you because I know you're the walking encyclopedia.
No, I'm saying that I am disabled. My video is disabled.
Yes.
Oh.
Just put yourself back on again.
Yeah, put it on. I just need to give you this information, Vivian. I think you will like this.
It says, sorry, you cannot start your video because it is disabled by the host.
Oh, right. Sorry, my mistake. I've obviously
right, okay.
pressed the wrong button. I've asked you to start again now.
All right, okay. Yeah, that should be fine now. Yeah.
There you are,
Yeah.
Vivian. You're back again.
Yeah, you're there. We can see you now. Yes.
Sorry about that, Vivian.
Wonderful.
Sorry.
Now, I know you do know quite a bit of local history. So on ITV, which is our independent television company, had DNA Journeys yesterday. DNA Journey was featuring somebody that we know well. His name is Marvin Hume, and he was a member of a boy band called JLS. And his family was being traced, his ancestry was being traced back to Blanche Williams. Blanche Williams, who left Jamaica in 1958 and came to England.
Sorry, that's Liz Auntie.
It must be, yeah.
Yeah, yes. So again, the Welsh connection there.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I did share, I put the link in Bridges of Friendship, so people can have a look at that setting. But also, there was a gentleman, Charles Thompson from Port Royal, who had his ancestry in Northern Ireland, and his uncle or granddad served in the Battle of Waterloo, who defeated Napoleon. And this is so amazing. He had no idea. This is a white person who accompanied Marvin, who is of mixed heritage, accompanied to Jamaica, and the historian in Jamaica was telling them about their ancestry, and they discovered that Thompson had a connection in Northern Ireland, and that is where the story of his grandfather came in, who served in the Battle of Waterloo and won the war between the French and Britain.
Gosh.
The only reason I mention Williams is because throughout the program, they didn't say anything about the origin of Blanche Williams, as to whether, we know the name, where the name has come from, but they hadn't made any connection that this was a person whose family is from Wales or anything. Nothing was mentioned about the Williams, except that was Marvin's grandmother.
But perhaps I didn't know.
Perhaps, yeah.
But this is a campaign that Garrick is carrying on my behalf, because we've got so many Jamaican Williamses that there must be some connection.
Yes. And the strange thing, Vivian, is that most of the Williams, when you have a conversation with them, they don't know where their ancestry are from.
Well, this is the gap for me in what we are trying to do. There is a gap for me in the Windrush, because I am not sure whether the contribution of enslavement to Africa, in England, from Africa to England and the West Indies, is being taught in the schools.
No.
And the poor children, poor I say, in knowledge, because they are not taught.
Yeah,
they might be hostile to these. Stephen Lawrence, I recall my brother was taking my family to the London Zoo, and we were waiting for the bus, and a group of young men drove up and said, "Nigga, go home."
Yeah.
And this happened in 86.
Yeah.
Not 1066.
86. Yeah. And as I said, I lived in Brixton at the time when they had slogan on the transit bus, telling people to go home. That was the intimidation that was happening back then.
You experienced that?
I experienced that, yeah.
My God.
1970, I was a member of the Black Power movement in Brixton.
So did you meet Olive Morris?
I work with Olive Morris. I've mentioned this before. I work with Olive Morris on housing.
Oh my God.
Oh yes. We campaign for housing for Black people in Brixton, and that campaign led to
the Black
housing, and also Lambeth, as the housing department is called Olive Morris House.
I noticed that. We spoke about that elsewhere.
Yeah. We work together.
And I said, Liz, I must have said on your program that Olive Morris was born at Harewood in St. Catherine.
Yes.
That's where Downton Abbey,
the
Lascelles from the Midlands,
Harewood
House. Oh my God, this is just interesting that you are part of that.
And I'm still in touch with members of her family. Maya Morris live in Hackney in East London. I'm still in touch with her. Right? We work together on a couple of mental health projects, and
well, so do tell her about her ancestral home at Harewood in St. Catherine.
I don't know if she knows. I will have that conversation.
Yeah, please do, because when the Bishop of England, when the Bishop arrived in Jamaica, 1824, the first church that was dedicated was St. Saviour's Church, Harewood, in St. Catherine.
Mm.
And I still wonder why he traveled all the way from Spanish Town in his carriage to reach there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he know the Lascelles from Harewood?
Yeah.
Well, this is just truly amazing.
Mm.
We're going to have to draw it to a conclusion, our discussion today. Thank you so much, Dr. Vivian Crawford, for your contribution. And I'm sorry we managed to lock out your picture for a while. But also, so many thanks to you, Garrick. Garrick Prayogg is a traveller. As you've heard, he was many years in London. You still maintain such a lot of links in the Wirral, and
Mm.
we're absolutely delighted that you're supporting our activities in North Wales. So thank you so much indeed.
Pleasure. Mhm.
Garrick Prayogg, campaigner extraordinaire. Okay, so thanks very much then. That was another Black History Conversations ticked off.
Mm.
Next week we'll be talking about other issues, catching up, and we look forward to that. So thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
At this
All
moment,
right. So
I'm going to try and I think I'll just end the session altogether. I think.
yes, just do that.
All right. Thanks very much,
Okay.
everyone. Thank
Right.
you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.